In today's tutorial, let's learn how to do the lattice cluster stitch. This is a fabulous afghan, and guess what? I'm going to be able to teach you how to make it a different size if you don't want a baby size. Let's get started on that next. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Well, today we're going to work on this particular stitch today, and I'm going to be teaching you how to make it bigger if you wish. Now you'll notice on yarnspirations.com that there is actually two patterns that are identical to each other. The original is very vintage looking, and then there's a modern version to this one. This one is more the vintage one that we're looking at. I use Bernat little tots with this to kind of modernize it a bit, and again I'm going to have some tips for you next to make it a lot easier for you to be able to follow this pattern, because it doesn't work with everything. So let me tell you about that next. So this is the common tutorial for both of the vintage looking one as well as the modernized softy baby one as we have it here. So let's move on to the tutorial element, and we're going to use a size 4mm size G crochet hook today. On camera I'm going to be using the Bernat Simply Soft Baby, and it's a bit thicker yarn than Simply Soft, but it's such an elegant yarn. Why can't I can't deny that. So I'm going to use this yarn here on camera today, and then also what we're going to do is that I'm going to show you just a little sampling of the size. So I'm not going to chain 138 as per the instructions. I'm just going to do the multiples just to get you started, and then we're going to cover doing the border after that as well. Now what you're going to be noticing with this particular afghan, if you want to change the size, you have to keep them in multiples of 8. So no matter what you do, you just have to go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, or just honor the stitches that it's asking for if you want the baby size. So it's 138 chains if you want the baby size. If you're doing the multiples of 8 just like I'm going to do, you have to make sure you add 2 chains to the very end of your chain in order to keep the balance. So let's begin. We're going to start off with a slip knot, and remember that never counts as one, and I'm going to do the multiples. So if you're doing the baby size, just chain your 138. I believe that's what it is. That is, and I'm going to do it in 8. So I'm going to just count out to 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8, and then I'm going to do it again. Is this long enough? Yes or no? If not, do it again. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. Long enough? Yes or no? Do it again if you're not satisfied. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. Satisfied? Yes or no? And I'm gonna say yes to this because I'm going to move you along, and at the end of your chain, when you decided that it's long enough, please add 2. So if you're doing the baby afghan, you're going to chain your 138, so don't add any chains extra, but if you're doing multiples, make sure you add your 2. So let's begin. We are simply just going to go second chain from the hook, so just count back 1 and 2, second chain from the hook, and simply just turn it around, go into the back hump only, and just single crochet, and then you're going to chain 5. 1 2 3 4 and 5. Skip 3 stitches, so skip 3 chains, 1 2 and 3, go to the 4th for a single crochet, and this is all this particular row is. So, okay, so the repeat pattern is 1 2 3 4 5, go back down to the chain, skip over the next 3, 1 2 3, go to the 4th and single crochet. Please do that all the way across your line. When you get to the other side, you're still continuing that, so 1 2 3 4 and 5, and if you kept your multiples right, you will have 3 stitches, and then the 4th stitch is your final stitch of your single crochet. Okay, so that is what the row 1 looks like, and basically it's quite easy. So now we're gonna start with the fancy footwork. So let's begin row number 2, and I'm gonna take my time because now we're gonna start doing the cluster work that is involved with doing this particular pattern. Now to begin this row, we simply just immediately start chaining a 5. 1 2 3 4 5. So what you're looking at here to make it easier for you is that this is part of the edge, and it's gonna bend over like this. Okay, and if you can visualize it like that, it just makes it easier for you to understand. So you're gonna come into this first chain 5 gap space in single crochet, And now we're going to start doing the cluster work, and the cluster work is done within the single crochet right here. But to get there first we have to chain 2. 1 and 2, and now we're going to cluster. So let's refresh ourselves on how to do that. We are going to wrap and going into that single crochet, pull through 2 and hold. And we want to do that 2 more times so that there's a total of 4 loops on the hook. So wrap into the stitch, pull through 2 and hold. Okay, do it one more time. So wrap into the same stitch, pull through 2 and hold. And then once you have your 4 in there, just yarn over and pull through all 4 and then chain 2. 1 and 2. So here's the consistent thing to watch for. Whenever you start a cluster you're always gonna have 2 leading to it, and the one on the way out is 2 leading outward on the other side. We're now gonna come into this chain 5 space and just single crochet. So the clusters do not exist every time. So there's not gonna be a cluster right here. It's gonna be a gapping of a space. So there's gonna be nothing there. So it only happens every kind of other one. So to begin the next one we are just going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come right into this next chain 5 space. Okay, so this one's over here. Come in right into the next one. And now there's gonna be a cluster coming up next. So to get to the cluster, like we always will, is that we will chain 2, 1 and 2, and now we're ready for the cluster in the single crochet. Remember to cluster, yarn over, going into the single crochet, pull through 2 and hold. And continue to do that until you get your 4 loops on your hook. Just like this. Then yarn over and pull through everything, and then chain 2. 1 and 2. So remember there's 2 leading into the cluster, 2 leading out of the cluster, and then we come to this next chain 5 space and single crochet. Okay, so we're gonna continue along the line. So what you have here is that you have a cluster, you have a space, and then a cluster, and that's how it appears every time on these particular rows. The only difference is as we move up, the cluster then will appear in between the clusters to kind of make it look really cool. But we'll get to that in a bit. So let's continue along. We're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, coming into the next chain 5 space. Okay, and we have to do another cluster. So we chain 2 to get there first. 1 and 2, cluster right into the single crochet, and we're gonna do that there. And how we finish this row off makes the world of difference, so make sure you are paying attention to that. Let's finish our cluster first, chain 2 to lead out of the cluster, and now here's the thing. We have to single crochet into this next chain 5 space, which is the very last one. So by the time you get all the way across you should end up in the last one like this. And you see how we did the chaining of 5 way over here and then single crocheted? Well, we're going to be doing the same thing on this side, but it's gonna be slightly different this time, because the fact is that we need our hook to be up here and not back down here when we're finished that. Let me tell you about that in a sec. So after you get the final single crochet in first, we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to double crochet ourselves into this final single crochet over here. And what this is doing is it's allowing me to finish and being up here, and I'm not sure what's going on with the yarn. I got some loose fibers, but we want to end up here and not back down here, and that's why we did that. So over here when we started, remember how I said it's kind of bending over? Even though it doesn't look like it at this point, it will look like that by the time we get back there. So it's a matter how you strategically finish, and this is row number 2, and you're going to be repeating this row every few times. There's a strategic number that you have to continue to do this row, and you have to do this each and every time. So let's do row number 3. Now the advantage to this particular pattern is that the clusters are not done every row. They're done every other row, and so by the time we come back to do the clusters again, we're going to do it and it's going to be appearing in the middle. So you have clusters here and here, it's going to appear here next time. But every other row is just a simply very easy row, is that we're just going to do like we did in the very beginning, is that we make all these chain spaces just like that again. So to begin row number 3, we're simply just going to chain 1 and just single crochet into the very first one. Okay, very easy peasy, no big deal. Okay, so let's begin the rest of this row. So we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the first stitch is going to be right into the cluster itself. Okay, so it's single crochet right into the cluster. Now where are you gonna go there? So what you can see is that you see how everything comes together in one stitch right there? That's where that cluster is, and you're going to single crochet into there. Okay, if you decide to choose the other side, which is not right over here, make sure you choose it on that for each one of them in order to be consistent. So if you're gonna get it into the wrong stitch, make sure you get into the wrong stitch each and every time. Just be consistent. So now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and we simply are just going to go into this chain 5 space over here. Okay, so we're jumping over everything and coming over here and single crochet. Okay, and now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and we simply come into the top of the cluster, the next cluster that's available to you, in single crochet. So do you see how it's kind of working out? You see that? So just chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, coming into the next chain 5 space. Okay, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a cluster, just like this. And let's figure out how to finish this particular row off. So at the end of the row you're going to do your chaining of 5. Okay, so you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is where I differ on this pattern versus the instructions that are given. What I highly recommend is that you know that there's 5 here, because you know there's 5. So what you need to do is that you need to count up to the third one. 1, 2 and 3, and then just single crochet into the third one. It says to crochet into the turning chain. It doesn't tell you which stitch to actually put it into. It's the third one, and if you don't put it in there, it doesn't look consistent on both sides of your particular project. So this is what it looks like at this point, and let's move on to round number 4, or row number 4. So let's turn our work and go on to row number 4. So the only difference of row number 2 and 4 is that the clusters are going to be in a different spot. So this time the clusters are going to be here in the middle instead of over here. So let's begin to do this. So this is number 4, so we're going to chain 5 first. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and we're going to single crochet into this beginning chain 5 space right here. Okay, and then we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then come into the next chain 5 space. So we're going right up over top of this cluster. Pretend it's not even there, but it helps you orientate yourself, so don't ignore it completely. So now we're ready to do a cluster. As you can see that it's right in between the two that are existing, so I want the cluster right here. So to go into a cluster, do you remember it's chaining up 2 and then cluster right into the single crochet. Okay, and pull through everything, and then chaining 2 leading out of the cluster, and then just a single crochet into the next chain 5 space. Okay, just like we did before on row number 2, we did a cluster, we did a chain space, and then a cluster. Same thing is happening on this row. So the only difference is that we're starting our cluster later on on the side, so we're not starting right away. We're moving over so that we can be consistent, because you cannot get a cluster any closer to this edge than this one. So let's continue along. We're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, coming into the next chain 5 space. Okay, and that means that there's gonna be a cluster. I can tell that because I'm keeping count, but I can see where the clusters are down here, and I want one right in the middle. So to lead into a cluster, it's chaining up 2 and then cluster right into the single crochet. Okay, and then chaining 2 leading out of it and single crochet into the chain space. So just like you had over here, see that there's 2 chain spaces before the cluster. So here's the cluster, there's 2 chain spaces. The same thing is happening over here. So we're gonna chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, you're going into the chain space, and then this time, because it's the 4th row, is that we are going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then we're going to double crochet to the third one up. So 1, 2 and 3, and double crochet up into the third. It says to double crochet right into the chain space. You go into the third one when you do that, and that's what it looks like at this point. So you can see that the clusters are now starting to work opposite to each other, and now we're ready for row number 5. So let's turn our work and go for row number 5. So row number 5 is the last of the repeat pattern because from rows 2 to 5 are always the same thing. So to begin row number 5, we're going to chain 1 and then single crochet into the first double crochet. It says which this is. And so row number 5 is just simply, there's no clusters in row number 5. So 3 and 5 there are no clusters. It's just the chaining of spaces in between. So to begin we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Look down, okay, and you're looking for the first chain 5 space, which is right there, and then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, this time it's going to be in the top of the cluster. Okay, and then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this time it's in a chain 5 space. So guess what the next time means? It's in the top of a cluster. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, top of the cluster, just like that, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 must be a chain 5 space because we just did a top of a cluster, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and what we're just going to do in the third chain up, 1, 2 and 3, single crochet. So that is the repeat pattern that will take you all the way from there. So you can go back to row number 2. In row number 2 we're gonna start doing the clusters again, so you'll see the clusters coming up first and then they'll just appear there. So once you get to the size that you want, then you're going to do the border. So you have to make sure that you finish on row number 5 so that you have the empty spaces on the outside, because when you look at the original sample that we have going on, just like so here, okay, you'll notice that there is empty spaces on the edges just like so on every side. So you just got to keep that being consistent. So let's begin to do the border next. So once you get your row number 5 done and whatever size that you want, you will finish always on a row number 5. You're going to turn your work and then you're going to start the edging. So to do this right now we're going to just chain up 3, 1, 2 and 3, and we're going to put 4 double crochets into this chain or into the single crochet. So let's do that. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So with a chaining of 3 that you started with actually counts as 1, so it looks like that there's 5. And so now we're gonna work across the top of the edge, and all we're just gonna do is that we're gonna put 3 double crochets into each one of the spaces that you see. So 1, 2 and 3, and then just continue to go along. So once you get those 3, you just go to the next chain 5 space and put 1, 2 and 3. And this, what this is doing is that because there's not enough stitches, it's gonna pull it up just like so, so that it can keep the stitch work kind of open for you when you're going to be able to present this with somebody. So just continue to go along a chain 5 space for 3 double crochets, and then I'll show you how to turn the corner, because we're gonna go all the way around doing this. So I'm getting close to the corner and I just want to get my 3 in there before I turn the corner. So to turn the corner, you remember how we just started off with 5 double crochets right into the corner? We have to do the same thing over here. So whatever the single crochet stitch is over here, we're just going to put in 5 double crochets there, and that'll allow you to turn the corner. So you just have to be consistent. That's all you have to do with this exterior. Just, it's a very, very easy border, I have to say. So we're gonna get our 5 in there. So I just gotta do one more. And so we're just gonna naturally turn our work and work down the open stitch work just like you see. So what we have to do then is then we kinda have to work our way in between the stitches just like you see. So the first one is right here, and there's gonna be 3 double crochets. Okay, so that's kind of keeping that open, and then we go into this next really obvious space. So each and every space, one will be obvious and the other one will be tighter. It's just a natural look in the way that trellis works. Okay, and then we come into this tighter space. So 3 double crochet. And so we're ready now. You're gonna go all the way down, and then once you get to the other side at the base, you're going to put in your 5 double crochets so you can naturally turn the corner. So this is 3, 4, and 5. And so now we're on the bottom side of where we started, and so you can just put your 3 double crochets into each one of these chain spaces, and then just do the same at the edge. You're gonna put in your 5 double crochets and then just work yourself up the other side, and I'll meet you back to where we started right over here. So I'm coming up all the way around, and I'm just finishing my final 3 double crochets into the chain space, and then we're just going to join it at the top of the beginning chain 3 that we started with, like so. So this is what it looks like at this point. I got a straggler here. I can just cut that out really quickly, and basically that's kind of where I started with my yarn. So I'll cut that out, and so basically this is the border, what it looks like so far, but we still have another 2 rounds to go that really kind of finish this off really quite nicely when you get it all done. Let's begin round number 2. We're going to start off with doing a chaining of 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So anybody in crochet knows that chaining of 3 counts as a double crochet. So why did I do 4? Because we've done a crochet plus chaining 1. So double crochet plus chaining of 1. And now we have to come into the next one and just double crochet, next stitch. Okay, chain 1, and then next stitch, chain 1, and then chain 1, and then the next stitch. Okay, so basically you had kind of 3 in the row just like this, and now we're going to just chain 1 just like that, and then we're just going to double crochet into the next double crochet, and we're gonna do that all the way around. So we're just chaining 1 and double crocheting every other one. So just skip 1 and go down into the second one over. So chain 1, skip 1, and go to the second over, and do that all the way around except for the corners. You want to do it in the same configuration where you're just moving around the edges of the group of 5 right in the middle, so that you're just double crocheting, chain 1, and just go into the very next, and that keeps your edging on the corners consistent, and you can refer to the pattern if that doesn't ring any bells for you. So I'm coming up all the way back around, and I just simply want to just finish off. And if you're off by 1 stitch, no big deal, just fake it, it's all good. And we're just going to just join it to the 3rd chain up. Remember we chained 4, just join it to the 3rd, just like so. So now we're going to finish off the final round, and the final round is what is really making this particular afghan really sweet. So this is what we have at this point, and it's really quite pretty at this point, even at this size. Imagine if it was an entire afghan. So let's begin our final round, and we're basically going to be playing within these posts and etc. So we're going to start off by chaining 1 and single crochet into the first one. We're now going to just skip this chaining space right here. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to cluster into the next double crochet. So remember the clustering that we did, we're going to do that again. Okay, once you get the cluster done, pull through all, and then chain 2, 1 and 2. So it's just like you did on the trellis work. So it's chain 2 to lead in, chain 2 to come out, and then into the next double crochet that you see, you're going to single crochet. That's how easy it is. So okay, so here's the repeat pattern. Chain 2, okay, skip the chain, go into the next double crochet. So we're skipping the chain 1 space, and we're going to cluster. Try that again. Okay, then once you get done, pull through everything, chain 2, single crochet into the next double crochet. So you're totally skipping over these chain 1 spaces that you made in the row below. So okay, so let's go do this again. So chain 2, and we cluster into the next double crochet, and you're just gonna do that all the way around. You don't even have to worry about the corners, because you're just gonna do this in every other one as you go. Okay, get the cluster, chain 2, so single crochet into the next. Okay, chain 2, cluster into the next. So continue to do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back up in just a moment. And this will take you a little bit to getting around your particular afghan, but the stitching is really worth it. It's how you finish an afghan that makes it all worthwhile, and it does a really amazing look at the same time. So I'm coming up all the way back around. I'm just clustering into the last one here, like so, and then 1 and 2, and then I'm just going to join it to the beginning chain 2 just like this. So there you go. You have it all the way around. You got a beautiful border. You have all your trellis work in between, and when you have it as a regular sample like so, like obviously there will be a bigger afghan version that you will have, and it's just a really amazing pattern to have. So until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of Yarnspirations as well as thecrochetcrowd.com, and this is a really fabulous pattern. We'll see you.